With his intent. So I can carry it in my pocket.
We got Stacy Garner on there.
They took
Preparations for today.
So the video is so freaking small. And I'm like,
volunteer for the
and
so sorry.
just read this time.
Not sure.
All right.
We're heading this way to see there.
He wants to get lazy. You start going.
Feel good about that. That's taken over so this.
Still have plans that we can still do this.
Well, I think we're gonna have this. Yeah, that's good.
Timing's kind of right, so that it's not. I understand this.
You want?
Something good.
Yeah, check. You can do the distance. Phone call. It's a great time.
Yeah, are you ready?
It's getting to be just a few.
Already, yes, thank you. Good morning. Fix it. Okay, my apologies. Hard to navigate a meeting with half people online and some people in the room, so I apologize. You don't like the surround sound? All right, well, welcome to our UPD board meeting for January of 2023. We're off to a new year. I will open it up to a roll call. Harmony, if you are willing to do that for us, please.
Director Bradley,
Here.
Director Brems,
Here.
Director Cardenas, Director Cardenas. Director Dally.
Here.
Director Keegley.
Here.
Director Litvak.
Here.
Director Olson.
Here.
Director Peterson.
Here.
Director Prokopis.
Here.
Director Silvestrini. He's just logging in right now. Director Stevenson.
Here.
Well, welcome everyone. Hello, Mayor Silvestrini, walking up at the Capitol, I can see. Thank you for joining us. We'll open it up to our second agenda item, which is public
I'm on
comment.
my way.
I think he said he's on his way. Great, thank you, Mayor. Drive safely. Any public comment today for the board?
Madam Chair, I'll just quickly on it as I'm taking an IT role right now of saying be careful with spam emails. I know that I recently received one from Under Sheriff Peterson asking to speak with me that was clearly from a spam email, and I actually also received one from claiming to be Jeff Silvestrini, and I just got 2 texts from council members saying they just received one from me. So just a reminder out there to as you get interesting emails to check who it came from to make sure that it's legit.
Thank you. An important reminder for all of us, we've been having some issues as well at Salt Lake County. Okay, any other public comment today? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 3, which is the election of new leadership. And I believe I'm turning the time over to Harry to lead us through the discussion.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to see you all. Because this is our January meeting, our board rules require that every year, the first meeting of the year, that we elect a board chair and a vice chair and appoint clerk. So with that in mind, while we have greatly appreciated your leadership and everything, you have been a fantastic chair. It is traditional that it's a 1-year term, and another tradition is typically the vice chair is appointed the chair, but that is not mandated, I think, in the rules. So I would ask the chair to call for nominations for the positions of chair and vice chair.
I am happy to do so. I'm sorry. Is there a question?
Who's the vice chair?
Director Olson was our vice chair in 2022. Director Olson has articulated to me that he's unable to fill the position of chair due to balances of work and probably life and 2 jobs as a council member, as well as a member of the board and having a job as well. So I think that's maybe why Harry alluded to the fact that the vice chair does not need to move directly into the chair position.
Correct.
So-
It's not mandated.
Thank you. I will go ahead and open it up to the board for nominations and discussion for the chair and vice chair positions for 2023.
Who served as chair?
Volunteers.
Mayor Drawley has, the Mayor Silvestrini has.
Councilor Prokopis has.
Prokopis has, Councilman Jim Bradley, I believe you've been the chair too. Well, a lot of time ago, maybe. You know, I don't know.
Mayor Silvestrini has.
And then Deputy Mayor Litvak, but you have.
I'd be interested if you would accept it nominating Councilmember Bradley, just as we go forward in these interesting times with the legislature and having Mr. UPD, as they call him, be the chair of this organization.
I was thinking of you.
I know that.
Well, I think it's is there anybody who has not served that would, it's a great opportunity. I wouldn't see it. It takes some time, not a lot of time, but it's, I sure enjoyed my time doing it. And,
I did as well, and
Yeah.
I would say that Harmony and the administrative team makes it a fairly easy responsibility to be the chair. So I can speak from personal experience that it wasn't overly burdensome as far as time or energy. But it is something that you need to prepare for and be ready to run these meetings on behalf of the UPD. So. Well, we had two, it sounds like two opposite nominations potentially for chair. Is there anyone who's interested in volunteering who hasn't been recommended as a possibility? So should we arm wrestle for it?
Well, we have a department called Roll and Hold, where you sort of try to obligate somebody if they don't want to step up. I think either obviously would be an excellent choice, and I have to give super props to Harmony for making the job easy. She always has everything ready to go. She's a super clerk and does make the job easy. And I just want to congratulate her for the job she does do. Yes, and of course, I think we were always willing as staff to do whatever we need to do. The administration will make it easy. So I would I actually think if might I suggest, Mayor Stevenson, you do it just because it's a great learning experience for us, and you haven't done it yet. And I think almost the whole board has, except maybe Councilman Peterson or Councilman Kegley. She's not in front of me, but Councilwoman Kegley also is an option. But if you're willing to allow your name to be submitted, we'd appreciate it.
I'd be happy to.
All right.
Right, and this is Carolyn Kegley. I would appreciate, this is Carolyn Kegley. I would appreciate that if maybe he does that. I'm actually facing some medical issues, and also with my remoteness with snow conditions and all of that, I think that he is a great choice at this time.
Well, is there a nomination and second for Mayor Stevenson?
Jeff Silvestrini, I nominate Marcus Stevenson.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for Mayor Stevenson to step in as chair of the UPD board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, Mayor, for your willingness to step into the role. I appreciate it.
I am very humbled by that. I really appreciate it. I will say that in this job, being in this role for a little over a year now, I have plenty of moments where I go, how the heck did I get myself into this? This is one of those moments. So
By the end of the year, you may entertain a motion to fire me.
Yeah.
As they say at the Oscars, it's an honor to be nominated. I hope you'll receive it in that vein. And then we are also looking for a nomination for our vice chair for the board. So I'll open up the floor for nominations for our vice chair.
I would suggest that somebody who hasn't served again, because I think even though it's not required traditionally, it's kind of that person's going to step into that role. So
You know, I would move that we consider seriously David Browns, who has not served in a leadership position. That might be a good time. So that's a
would you
nomination.
accept that? Is that a
Browns,
nomination?
are you willing?
I'll nominate. Is that a nomination?
Yes, that's a
I'll
nomination.
second it.
Yes.
All right. So we have a first and a second. Director Brems, are you willing to step into that role? Thank you very much for that. All in favor of Director Brems becoming our vice chair, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, sir. Thank you for your willingness to serve. All right.
I would just ask that there be a renomination of a clerk as well for the board. I would of course suggest our super clerk Harmony, but that's up to you.
I'd be happy to make that motion actually, as I'm no longer the chair. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Harmony, thank you very much for your service. Harmony does do a fantastic job. I will echo that. She made this job very seamless. So thank you. So do we do an official chair switch or?
Yeah, I guess so. Now it's official. So
Right.
sure.
Okay,
Mayor Stevenson.
And again, thank you to Mayor Lidback for her service and
Thank you.
and also to Councilman Olson too. Thank you as well.
Thanks, you guys. If I may, while you're making that transition, I know that it is customary. Wait, can I get a thumbs up if audio's good? Thank you. I know it's customary for the vice chair to step in that position, and if I might correct Deputy Mayor Litvack, I actually juggle 3 jobs. I also teach at night twice a week, so I'm pretty busy. And so, you know, I'm grateful for that consideration, and I'm sorrowful that I'm unable to accept it, but I'm sure that Mayor Stevenson is going to do a great job in that position, and that would have been my nomination as well. So congratulations, Mayor Stevenson.
gotta get used to not sitting on my own little island over there.
Gotta figure out your chair.
Hey, Mr. Chair, Jeff Silvestrini, if I may, I would just like to thank Deputy Mayor Litvack for her service. She's been a great chair, and thank you, Aaron, for what you've done, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been an honor to serve.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item 4, committee assignments.
Thank you. In the board packet is a list of all the committee assignments we have in UPD. Just going through it, we don't need to necessarily make any changes. It's just something that if somebody is in a position where they either can't serve as a chair or would like to serve on a committee. I know we've got the standing committees, and then we've got some other committees, legal valuation, interlocal committee, and on the interlocal committee, we have been dormant on that due to a pending departure. And it does include Lisa Garner, the Midvale City Attorney, who's no longer with Midvale City, so we need to make a change there. But I think that committee is going to pick up some steam this year. We will obviously, as we talk about the issue regarding the proposed legislation that could affect that. So I have a hunch that committee is going to be essentially moving forward either by necessity or just because it's a good idea. The operations study review committee is on hold for right now. But I just want to indicate that if there are any committees that you've been on, you would like to be on a different committee, now would be the time. Or we could approve this as drafted with the change regarding the Midvale City Attorney. Perhaps I suggest just calling for any people who would like to switch committees or no longer chair a committee and move that around might be in order. Maybe just sort of let us know if you're satisfied or if you want to change.
Thoughts from any on the board?
I'd be interested in serving on the benefits and compensation. I feel like I've been both involved with finance and benefits and comp, but we already have 7 members on finance. We have 6 on benefits and comp.
Might I just ask, is there anybody on benefits and comp who's been doing it that would like to either step aside or we can just add a member to it, whichever the preference would be.
I've served on it for a long time. I'd be happy to step off of that committee. I'm on the finance committee and the interlocal committee. And if we're gonna be very busy on the interlocal committee,
Yeah.
I'm fine
Okay,
having Mayor Stevenson replace me. And comp.
So, place Mayor Stevenson on benefits and compensation, move Mayor Litvak to interlocal.
I'm already on interlocal,
Oh,
so I
see
have
that.
2 committees instead of 3.
Okay, all right.
Let's move that. Be more focused on the ones that I'm on.
All right. Are there any other changes or, I had mentioned to you, Mayor, if your city attorney would want to serve on the interlocal committee in lieu of Lisa Garner and.
I'd like to volunteer him for that.
Okay, he's been voluntold. All right, so we get it for the record. His name is
Garrett Wilcox.
Garrett Wilcox. Okay. Then I guess at this point, if there are no other changes, did you have a change you wanted to make?
No, I'm good with mine.
Okay. Then I guess if there are no other changes, just make a motion to approve those changes as committee assignments and.
I apologize for this. It's an embarrassing question. But I'm on the current legal evaluation committee. I don't remember what we do.
We're sort of done. That actually is a committee that at this point I think could be dissolved because the valuation's done. We just update the formula on an annual basis.
So does that, are you saying that that committee is no longer needed?
I don't think the committee's needed. The only way we would need to reevaluate that is if there was ever a mandated change to our valuation, then we might need to redo it. But that's it. Other than that, we're done.
Constitute a committee.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave that.
I think it's, I mean, it can stay dormant for now, but we have no need for it for right now.
So is the intention to eliminate that committee at this time and
We can either leave it dormant or eliminate it. There's no intent to have any meetings of that committee at this time.
is there a preference from the board?
If it's gonna lay dormant, I would be comfortable just leaving it as is. If something does come up that's unexpected.
All
it's
right.
It's
there.
already in.
Okay, then I think just a motion to approve the changes that have been submitted and we're done.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Vote. Yeah, it passes. Thank you. All right, item 5, resolution approving the county sheriff's amendment legislation, resolution 230101.
So thank you. As you know, we had a longer draft. It was generously called comprehensive by, I think, Councilman Bradley. But with direction from the board, we went through it and tried to condense it. I want to thank the people who did that. Also Brittany Karzan, who was very helpful in trying to consolidate this. And I also want to thank Mayor Silvestrini for his edits, which have been incorporated en masse into this. I think there was just one spacing or 2 spacing issues that we fixed because of the correct or adopt changes showed us that, but we didn't change any of the actual verbiage of your edits. So
And I made, there were a couple of typos in what I wrote.
I think we thought, okay, yeah, but I mean, the substance of what you wrote in here has been changed. The deleted parts have been deleted. So with this, at this point now, we've got it down to a fairly tight document that's literally 4 pages, including the edits, and with that, unless there are some additional changes, I would recommend approval of this. I think it's gone through enough iterations that it is something that we would like to circulate to the legislators considering the bill and go forward on that basis.
Mr. Chair, Jeff Silverstone, I will make a motion to approve resolution 23-01-01 of 2023. A resolution opposing the county sheriff amendments bill.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Be comfortable with all of this.
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Perry, thank you for all of your work on this. It's been very frustrating as well. It's a good resolution.
Thank you.
I get to play lawyer every once in a while.
You play it well.
Okay, item 6, UPD update, Sharon Rivera.
Morning, everybody. Just a few updates. Just wanted to mention that Midvale City recognized about 55 people the other night at their council meeting. There was a stabbing that occurred in Midvale. We thought there was kidnapping of a child, but we found that the child was left in the area. But this was a really critical incident that our detectives went on as well as our patrol officers. And we just want to thank Midvale City for recognizing them. It's, you know, we get recognized every now and then, but for some of those type of cases, it's a big deal when the city will recognize it. So I want to say thank you. Also, I wanted to mention that Choose Game Free is teaming up with Midvale City to do some prevention programs with the youth out there in Midvale. And Midvale has offered up an old fire station at a very reasonable rate. And our Choose Game Free advocates are going to be teaming up with Midvale City and others to work out of that fire station and work with some youth there. And we think it's really a good game prevention initiative that's going to be happening. And I hope other cities can get on board with that as well. But our Choose Game Free program is just an incredible program that helps these young kids go in a different direction than games. So really good program. So kudos to Midvale for that. Holiday City recognized Doug Barney. As many of you may know, he was killed in the line of duty. They provided a luncheon for Doug's family and officers, and it was a real nice event, and we wanted to say thank you for that. We got to eat with the family and just to see how his kids have grown, and you know, they've been able to have success throughout their lives as children, and now they're adults, and it was really good to hear the stories. But gave our officers an opportunity to sit around, talk about Doug and all the great things that we remember about Doug, and we just wanted to honor him. And then just on January 17th, one of our former UPD officers, he actually had to retire from UPD because he had a brain tumor. He passed away January 17th. That is Dennis Decker. He worked with the sheriff's office for 10 years and then came to UPD in 2018. And he did have to leave in 2022 due to the brain tumor and his health. So just wanted to mention that. Funeral has not been planned yet, but we will be there with our honor guard and others to honor Dennis's service to our departments. So. And then legislation, as you know, there's a whole lot of legislation going on. The undersheriff and Brittany Carzan have been very actively involved already. Several legislative issues that are coming up that involve law enforcement. Many of them we're going to either oppose or support, but it's usually more if it's a conflict for how we do our job. There's a few bills that we believe that will have impacts to victims of crime that we'll be discussing today up at the Capitol, and there's several others, but we'll keep you updated if there's any legislation that we would like the board to also support or not support. So, but we'll keep you updated on that. And we do have Under Sheriff Jake Peterson is assigned up there full time for the duration of the session. And that is my update. If there's any questions that any of you have. Yes.
So sure, not so much question, but I just want to advise you that I'm assuming that everybody is not planning on a committee meeting tomorrow morning in Mill Creek. I know that there are some that aren't planning on it. I have to do my homework, which is to draft up a summary of what our committee decided and a report on that to the board. I think we have consensus. We may not get a unanimous vote on everything that we're of this, but we have consensus. I think that to recommend to the legislature that they leave the issue of what is a countywide service or what is not to local government, to the county council. That we probably are going to be willing to recommend that we take a look at least how to broaden the participation in some of the task forces to permit other agencies to participate with countywide dollars, provided, however, they are willing to make the kinds of commitments that are necessary to have those forces function efficiently. So that would mean that you need to make a multiple-year commitment to provide an officer to say the DEA task force or the task force. And then they would have to cover the insurance for those officers, just like UPD covers the insurance for its own officers. And then the other issue, I think, where we may not have complete consensus, but we're trying to work on that, is to convince the sponsor of the legislation that would provide that the sheriff cannot be the CEO of UPD, to withdraw that bill or at least postpone it for a year and let us work on that. There are some of us that believe that, we appreciate the economies that we've achieved by virtue of having the sheriff's office and the UPD work so closely together, and it would cost the taxpayer, both for the county on the countywide side as well as the UPD side, more if we were to try to separate those. So that's kind of what, in a nutshell, I have to kind of document and write up. And then if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to say a couple of other things. First of all, I would like to commend the officers in the Mill Creek precinct and specifically call out Sergeant Allen and Detective Jared Nichols. But I know that Sergeant Renfro and others in our precinct have been working on this as well in terms of the work that they have done with managing the temporary overflow shelter that we're operating. That facility started operating in November. There have been, dozens of calls that come from in the shelter that require UPD response, and these are super difficult things that I'm glad I don't have to deal with. But it's dealing with intoxicated or otherwise impaired folks that come to the shelter that haven't been screened properly, that have to be dealt with, if you will. There have been some narcotics violations there, and then they have also engaged with folks that are trespassed out of the facility for bad behavior or not following the rules, so they get kicked out essentially, and then they're interdicting those folks and offering them resources, trying to figure out what they're up to, and hopefully convincing them that they can't camp in our city or anyplace else. It's not allowed anyway. But those guys are doing a fantastic job, and I know it's super difficult work. I've been meeting when I can with them and the shelter operator on Tuesday mornings and hearing about some of their experiences and some of the problems that they face with respect to the logistics of the whole deal. But we are working through that. I think I'm hoping it's getting better, but those guys are heroes for that kind of work, because it's not very fun. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that also.
Thank you. Good to hear. Any other questions from the board?
I just would like to reiterate that if there is legislation that we can be helpful on, please do let us know. I think many of us have relationships or can communicate with our own personal legislators in support of or against legislation that's pending. So please utilize us to help in those efforts.
I have a question. What is next for the resolution that we just approved? Where does it go? How does that get out to the masses?
So there are obviously different groups of people we're working with at the legislature to oppose the bill. We circulated probably to all committee members prior to consideration of the sheriff's amendments. I imagine certain lobbyists will be involved in that as well, making sure that it's available, so that it's our expression of the position of the board members. I do think it'd be appropriate to contact your local legislators and brief them on it as well. They listen to those who are their constituents, and there are others that we're working with, including the Sheriff's Association and others that we will circulate this to as well. So we'll see that it gets out there. Your help would be appreciated. And I really think the best thing you can do would be to make sure that your legislator knows your position and the copy of the resolution, summary of the reasons why. If you have any other reasons.
I can't agree more with that, you know, given the work that I do up there. Our legislators who represent our UPD communities need to know that this is a bad proposal, and also the reasons why, I think, to give them some ammunition. You know, I'm convinced that this would cost the taxpayers of the county more if the sheriff were to have to separate her statutory duties. There are certain things that the sheriff is required by state law to be in charge of, and so she or he cannot contract for those things and cede the supervisory authority under state law. And so that would, if this bill passes, it will necessitate the sheriff taking those functions back into the sheriff's office, which would mean they leave UPD. And then if the efficiencies that are achieved with respect to things that we share, like our human resources and many others, as we all know, will be lost. And then UPD will also have to pick up some slack on that too, because of the fact that the county does pay some money to support some of those operations. Now, I don't know that jobs will be lost as a result of that. In fact, I think that jobs might have to be added as a result of that, which is why it will cost more, because the efficiencies of economies of scale won't be able to be achieved. So that's the message that our legislators in our various communities should hear from us, so that they not only vote against the bill, but so that they can be persuasive with their colleagues about why they should vote against it.
For that update. Come up, Debbie.
Next, we'll hear from Chief Financial Officer Debbie Sanchez for the request for fiscal year 24 budgetary direction.
And I'm actually gonna take the lead on this. Just by the way, Debbie's doing a fantastic job. You've been super impressed with her skills and abilities and her personality. So she fits right in. It's been wonderful. Today, this topic, what we are here for is to get direction from the board of what you want to see the budget look like as far as percentage wise increases. As you know, we've already met with all the precincts to see what the chiefs are recommending for increases in their budget or what requests they're asking for. We're also looking at compensation for sworn and civilian. But also we have the county IT, the bill went up. We have fleet that's gone up, insurances have gone up. So we have a lot of things that we're still waiting to get final, so we don't know yet. But is there a percentage that you want to see your precinct and then shared services? We're just trying to figure out how you want us to do it this year. There have been previous years where you said just flat budget and nothing. Other years, you know, we will present to you whatever our needs are. Our preference is that we present to you our needs and then you whittle it down. But I know in the past, the board has just said, don't put it in the budget. So we just need your direction. I don't know what you want us to do.
So I'll just say that, you know, in terms of our, attempting to budget and looking out 5 years, basically, it's really super hard to do that given, inflation is variable. We're hoping that it's reducing. It has reduced a little bit, but whether that's a trend or just a blip, we don't know yet. But we're in Mill Creek, our finance folks are planning on a 4% increase in the UPD budget. Now, whether that's doable or not, given the cost of living, I know it's more than that. That's hard, but just to let you know that's what we're planning on. And I know that our strategy on paying for the increase in funding this kind of requires us to do a truth in taxation and tax increase to our residents of a small amount of, roughly 4% or under citywide. Anyway, and we use our property tax to pay for UPD contract 100%. So that's what we're planning on. If that's helpful, I recognize that we'll have a discussion and some give and take. We have to, based upon when some of these things that we cannot control come in. And then I'm super interested in talking about what's going on in the market about compensation.
And we do hear that there are agencies that are going to raise the wages for law enforcement again. What we've taken a look at is where we're at currently. And if we were to try to stay in that top 3 or 4 position, if we can do that with a smaller percent than we have in the past, because you have approved over and over and over. But the challenge is our civilians. We have not addressed our civilians' compensation, and we are losing them. So there's the turnover there is increasing. And when we can't pay them a decent wage, we're going to continue to lose them. We have taken a look at if we were to fix all of the compensation for the civilians, we're looking at several $100,000. So we're trying to figure out how we ensure that we're doing something for our civilians, even if it's a long-term, maybe a 3-year plan of how we get them to where they need to be. But, we have the same, I believe we have one more civilian than we do sworn. Is that correct? So we have like 139 civilians and 138 sworn.
80 something.
Is it? Okay, so it's close to, they're valuable to this organization. We couldn't do the job without our civilian staff. So we have to address that. And that's what we're looking at. I don't know with the 4% with all the increases, because our IT has gone up, ammunition's gone up, supplies, uniforms, everything has gone up. So we want to take a good look at it. But if we have a percentage to kind of look at, that will help guide us. And then at the end of the day, we're going to meet with you anyway to see if you want to use some of your fund balance to help balance your budget like we did last year. Of your precinct budgets. So,
I think it's a good, I think 4% is a great target. But I'm hoping we're going to see a lot more data in February as benefits and comp that we can then come back and, based on what we see, refine that a little bit for that March. Because in March, we have to kind of give that number that we're committed to. And it hopefully doesn't change, right? We don't have to come back in May or go to a weighted vote, but it's hard to say until we see where those markets are and what other people are doing with COLAs. But I'm kind of operating on the assumption that holiday will be fine, because the tax increase we did a few years ago is going to cover us, and we plan on we put up a fund balance anticipating this, that we may have to use a little bit of our fund balance to keep our overall rate down. But I'm assuming some of these other municipalities are going to have a really difficult time going out to their residents with truth in taxation. And maybe I'm wrong, but you've already done that last year, right? To deal with COLA.
51 cities in our state went through truth in taxation last year. And most all of them did that in reaction to having to pay more safety salaries. So is there appetite to do that again? I mean, it depends. I mean, a lot of it's individual municipality philosophy.
Yeah,
we've said we'd rather go out to our residents for 3 to 4% increase every year, and just, and I know in West Valley they do that, and people just kind of expect it. So their truth in taxation isn't a complete cluster with pitchforks and torches, because people understand that the costs go up. But there are a lot of communities that don't do that, and then when they do have to increase the taxes, they're having to increase them by a much greater percentage, and that is what brings people out. So you're right, Mayor. I think we just need to see, we need more data to be able to give that number. I'm just saying that's what we plan.
I think that's a great. I'd love it if we could keep UPD at 4% this year. I think it's a great target. But I'm hoping that the variables that are going to be in the hopper are clarified in February, so we can come back in March. And if we have to tweak that a little bit, so it's a realistic target, we'll do that. But I think what the sheriff's saying is you need to start point. And I think that's as good as any. I think it'd be great if we could do that.
Concur, that's, Salt Lake County just passed our budget and ours was around a 4% for employee salaries. So it aligns nicely with some of the work that's already been done. I mean, we addressed this budget obviously in June, but I think it aligns with what I think you're seeing other groups do. I would say in addition to that, I'd like us to continue to take that sort of surgical approach to looking at our salary and compensation, looking at all the unique positions and being very thoughtful and strategic about where they are in the market and what that increase should look like, keeping inflation in mind as well. And I think that's important to understand very clearly, that we want to take that very strategic, thoughtful, sort of surgical approach to how we make compensation recommendations.
And Chief Ackerman will present that at the Benefits and Compensation Committee meeting.
Mr. Sheriff.
Yeah.
Bill?
Director Cardenas, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. Sheriff Rosie was asking for a direction on how to go about the budget, and then going over the financial statement. I should, for clarification, still new to this, but is the budget going from July to June? Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, looking at what the financial statement was showing, it looks like in terms of last year's budgeting, it looks like it's been pretty close. There's been some obviously some areas where either less or more, but overall, I felt like that looks like that was pretty good. So to me, yeah, I'm agreeing with that. That 4% range sounds like a good target for next year's budget.
Thank you. And I'll just add in, I agree that 4% is a good target. I know in Midvale City being a heavily sales tax based city and kind of being unsure where the economy is going to go. At this point, for our own budgeting, we are planning on no revenue increases, with a potential slight decrease, even though we know costs of the city are going up, and here UPD. So that's, if we can keep it to 4%, that would be quite helpful for us.
So we will try and work in that direction. It's very helpful. That 4% is helpful in helping us get moving forward. We have started entering the operational budgets that the commanders have given to us. We're working on the wages right now, using that guidance, of trying to stay in the top 3%. And then we've got the costs that we're working on. So, and as Sheriff pointed out, things are going up. And we've got a budget that we've got to try and get completed in March. But I know that the Finance Committee wants to see something in February, and that's why this 4% guidance was so important. So I appreciate that.
I just want to say, I'm curious to see what 4% will get us, given what the CPI is right now. We've made great strides in closing that salary gap between the greatest agency in the valley and the top agencies, and I hate to lose anything in that market, but I think that's a stretch. 4%, honestly. We'll see what the numbers bear.
But for the sworn, the wages right now are just a percentage from each other, from the top to the third position.
And that salary survey's been done for sworn.
Yes,
Okay.
It's done. So we'll present that, but we need to address our civilians. That is going to be the priority. We've got to get the civilian staff work for us. So
I'd hate to see that 4% get eaten up in salaries. Must not have anything to make other improvements elsewhere.
right, because costs have gone up everywhere, and we have to continue, operating, so.
That's the biggest item of the budget, and it's, and the cost of living affects those officers, you know, so I mean, it's tough to not do that.
Well,
I
and,
agree.
you know, I appreciate what the board has done, because now you put us in a position where it's just a percentage, not, or like a 1%, 1.5%. Before it was a very significant difference.
70%.
And so those help even every little bit. What I'd like to see with the civilians, even if we can't do the entire thing because it's such a big dollar, at least have like a 3-year plan of how we're going to get them up there too, and make the civilians the priority of the budget. Because they're just as valuable.
I'll just say, I think my philosophy going into this, and I've told this to Chief Thomas as well at the precinct, is I trust you all to figure out what those funds need to be spent on. And I think it's important that this board be able to say, what is that increase that we can handle? And this year is going to be tough. And if the decision is, civilians really the area that we're struggling with, I trust that decision. If it's we need more fleet or to go to swarm, and I know that that's hard on your end. And I think it's being able to say, what is that amount we can handle? And I trust you guys to.
Yeah, and this is a first step with the civilians because we're dealing with inequities. We're trying to figure out. And so that's why your looks so high, but this will be the first step, and we're hoping that we can go to those.
That helps.
All right, item 8, acceptance of donations. We're going to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We go through these. We're always humbled by the generosity of so many wonderful people who support us and make donations and can't do it without them. So the first one's from Heather London for a check for $80 to the holiday precinct. And then there's a Lois line, a $100 check for the holiday precinct. Third donation we have is a percent from the Curtis precinct for the Curtis Township for $550. And the Kearns Community Council for $300 for 7%. Thank you, Kearns. Support those initiatives holiday. And then Joel Trujillo gave a $3 cash donation. We appreciate it. So we'll submit those to you. A lot of gratitude and appreciation.
Make a motion to accept the donations with appreciation.
We have a motion. Second.
Second.
We have a motion. A second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's the view. Thanks. All right, item 9, approval of 2023 board meeting calendar. And apparently that's me.
Move to approve.
Seconds.
Here we have a motion in a second to approve the board meeting calendar. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item 10, upcoming subcommittee meetings. We've got the finance committee on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023 at 8 a.m. Any other meetings that we should be aware of?
Curious when the benefits and compensation committee will be meeting. I think that's a very important piece for the budget process.
So I can answer that. I was waiting until after we solidified our committee, so we will put out a doodle poll, but I would anticipate the second week of February. And I coordinated with our insurance group for the next meeting available during that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Councilman Director Procopa.
Since we began our meeting, we got an email from our lobbyist, and they would like to have a meeting regarding legislation and with the Slovenia board Monday, January 23rd. So it's a Zoom meeting. Sounds like more information will be coming. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to read that since we've been in here. That probably should be on the record. There will be a meeting of some sort between our legislators, our lobbyists, and the police board on Monday, the 23rd.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, the sheriff may want to speak to this step, but where I think this is for members of Lisa, so you're at least aware of this. The sheriff has met with Representative Tusher. He's the sponsor of the legislation that would require that the sheriff not be the CEO of UPD. And his response to the concern that was expressed by the sheriff was, I'm being pushed to sponsor this by people, and if you can convince them to back off, then I don't care if we run this bill. Basically, I think that's the summary. The people that we know, the one person I know of for sure who's been concerned about this is the city manager of South Jordan. I have a connection to him. I'm going to try to talk to him. I had a long conversation with him in the Capitol, and we had the committee meeting on this when there wasn't a bill yet, but there was a discussion about that before the committee. Gary Whatcott, right? Is his name? On our committee, Jeff Carr from South Jordan has been participating. And I know that Chief Carr is, he's expressed concerns about the sheriff designate, the sheriff and the county basically paying for positions in county-wide task forces using county general funds when other agencies aren't able to participate. So, for example, the DEA task force that the county pays for UPD officers, and the same thing with metro communities. And that's why we've talked in this committee about a potential resolution where there would either be a competitive process where an agency might bid in to have one of their officers participate in those task forces on a county-wide general fund dollar. And the reason that they want that is because these task forces are an opportunity for training and I think interesting work for somebody, for any officer, right? Somebody might want to put that on the resume, or they might want to have the ability to have that, learn those skills. And then, their hope is also, I think, that those officers, once they participate in a task force like that, would be able to come back to their agency and share what they've learned, so that there are better departments. So the reservation about that in the past has been that somebody would put in an officer, but then pull them out in a year or less because they need them for other things. And then there isn't continuity on the task force and the task force suffers. So I think the sheriff has been willing to consider that, and the council members that have been participating in this committee are willing to consider that kind of thing, so long as we can structure it. But I think when Lisa meets with Representative Tusher, I would discuss with him that, who is asking, who is driving this, because I think it's Mr. Whatcott, and he's, he has questions, but I think, I'm going to try to spend some time with him, and hopefully Jeff Carr will be educating him a little bit. Jeff Carr came from the county sheriff's office and knows how this works. And I don't think that he personally has an axe to grind about this. And I'm not sure that Gary does either. I think a lot of that is grounded in not understanding how the county has apportioned the 20% that they pay for shared services and why the county is funding UPD. The other thing I don't know about this is whether there are others, that have expressed similar concerns to Representative Tusher. Now, I know that I think both Riverton and Harriman have had their issues with UPD and might have some issues there. I noted some comments by county council member Sheldon Stewart was quoted in the paper, where he thought that the county was subsidizing UPD, which I think is inaccurate. And I'm hoping that we can also talk to Councilmember Stewart and kind of educate him about this as well. I don't know if he's driving this, but anyway, when you guys meet with Representative Fisher as police members, I would recommend that you probe him about who's pushing this. I think that there's something that can be worked out if we look at it more carefully, and also that that some of the misconceptions that even people like Councilmember Stewart might have are just a lack of understanding of how the budget actually works. And one of the things that where I'm hopeful is that in the course of our committee work, some of the county council members that may have had questions about this in the past, I think have come around to the idea that, hey, these are legitimate countywide services, and gee, the methodology that's being used to apportion what the county pays from the general fund is as good as can be done. The methodology is sound. I mean, so anyway, I just provide that as background to you when you talk with that. I'm glad that you're doing that. And I think it's important that we get the word out that if you open the hood here and look at what's going on, there's not anything nefarious. It's all appropriate.
And I did speak with Chief Jeff Carr yesterday. I don't think we're going to change his mind at all. I think he's in support of the legislation the way it stands. So
okay,
we had a long conversation, and that there's that perception out there that the county is subsidizing Salisa, and also the 3 cities that are part of the UPD are getting the benefit as well. And I don't think we're going to be able to change his mind. We try. Also, Councilwoman Amy Linda Newton has said publicly that she doesn't believe the sheriff should be over the UPD. She sees a conflict. I disagree, but she's been very vocal as well. So I don't know if we want to also reach out and talk with her, but she, has been part of this process. I did not reach out to Gary. I talked to you, and you said you would. So
yeah,
I will not done that.
Well, thank you both for your comments. Mayor, I want to thank you for all your work, because you've really thrown yourself into the middle of what is a quite complicated situation. You've done just a great job leading that work group, and I do think there has been progress made, and it is largely because of your leadership in that. So thank you, regardless of kind of where this goes. I know that there's been a ton of work put in, and will continue to be. Okay, item 11, approval of the December 15th, 2022, December 22nd, 2022 UPD board meeting minutes. Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes, or otherwise I would entertain a motion to approve?
Make that motion to approve the minutes from December.
We have a motion.
Second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, that passes. Okay, item 12, closed session to discuss pending or reasonable imminent litigation.
Mr. Chair, Jeff Silverstream, I will make a motion pursuant to the code to go into closed session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion? We need a roll call. We do. Or maybe we call roll.
Director Bradley,
Aye.
Director Brown, Director Cardenas,
Yeah. Yes.
Director Daly,
Yes.
Director Kuechly,
Aye.
Director Litvak. Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Prokopis.
Aye.
Director Silvestrini.
Aye.
Director Stevenson.
Aye.